The galaxy was at war. The Valorian Empire, a technologically advanced alien race, was engaged in a bitter conflict with the United Earth Federation. Battles raged across star systems, but none as fiercely as the one over the planet Zaloria. Zaloria, a lush and resource-rich world, was the crown jewel of the Valorian Empire, and it was here that the fate of both species would be decided. Princess Lyra of the Valorian Empire stood on the balcony of her crystal palace, overlooking the vibrant forests and glimmering lakes of her home planet. She was a striking figure, with iridescent blue skin and flowing silver hair, her eyes shimmering with determination. Lyra had been raised to lead her people, to protect them from the threats of the universe. Yet as she gazed at the stars, she couldn't shake the foreboding feeling that her world was on the brink of catastrophe. Inside the palace, the atmosphere was tense. Advisors and military leaders debated strategies and tactics, their voices echoing through the grand halls. Lyra's father, Emperor Thalos, paced back and forth, his face etched with worry. Despite his advanced age, he exuded an aura of strength and authority. He paused and turned to Lyra as she entered the chamber. "Lyra," he said, his voice grave, "our scouts report that the Earth forces have breached our outer defenses. They are advancing towards the capital." Lyra nodded, her resolve hardening. "We must hold our ground, Father. Zaloria is our home, and we will not let it fall." Emperor Thalos placed a hand on her shoulder, his eyes filled with pride and sorrow. "You have always been brave, my daughter, but remember, this war is not just about land or resources. It is about the survival of our people." Meanwhile, on the other side of the conflict, Captain Daniel Hayes, a seasoned soldier of the United Earth Federation, prepared his troops for the impending battle. The Federation had received intelligence that the Valorian Empire was on the verge of developing a superweapon capable of annihilating entire planets. Their mission: infiltrate the palace, retrieve the plans, and, if necessary, neutralize the threat. Hayes was a man of duty, his resolve hardened by years of combat. But even he couldn't ignore the nagging doubt about the morality of their mission. The Federation strike force assembled on the deck of the battleship Excalibur, the largest and most formidable vessel in the fleet. Hayes stood before his men, his expression stoic. "Listen up," he began, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "Our mission is simple. Get in, retrieve the intel, and get out. We've trained for this. Stick to your training, watch each other's backs, and we'll make it through." The soldiers responded with a chorus of affirmations, their faces a mix of determination and apprehension. As they boarded their dropships, Hayes couldn't shake the feeling that this mission was different. The stakes were higher, and the lines between right and wrong had never been more blurred. As the battle began, the skies above Zaloria erupted in a blaze of laser fire and explosions. The Federation forces launched their assault, breaching the planetary defenses with precision. Captain Hayes led his team through the chaos, pushing towards the heart of the Valorian capital. Amidst the turmoil, destiny was about to intertwine the lives of two unlikely allies. The dropships descended rapidly, dodging anti-aircraft fire and weaving through the storm of battle. Hayes's team landed near the outskirts of the capital city, the sound of the dropship's engines drowned out by the cacophony of war. They moved swiftly through the dense underbrush, their movements practiced and efficient. "Stay low and keep quiet," Hayes whispered to his team as they approached the palace. The structure loomed ahead, a magnificent edifice of crystal and stone, now marred by the scars of conflict. The team split into smaller units, each with a specific objective. Hayes led the primary assault group, aiming to breach the main entrance. Inside the palace, alarms blared and lights flickered as Valorian soldiers rushed to their positions. Princess Lyra donned her combat gear, a sleek and lightweight armor designed for agility and protection. She took up her ceremonial blade, a weapon passed down through generations of her family. With a deep breath, she joined her royal guards in defending the palace. The halls echoed with the sounds of battle, the clash of weapons and the cries of the wounded. Lyra fought with a grace and ferocity that belied her royal upbringing, her blade cutting through the chaos with precision. Despite their efforts, the Valorian defenders were being pushed back, the relentless advance of the Federation forces proving too much to withstand. Captain Hayes and his team fought their way through the palace, encountering fierce resistance from the Valorian guards. The mission was progressing, but the cost was high. Hayes's team was dwindling, and the weight of command bore heavily on him. As they breached the inner sanctum of the palace, they were met with an unexpected sight. Princess Lyra standing defiantly, her blade gleaming in the dim light. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. Hayes and Lyra locked eyes, each recognizing the resolve and desperation in the other. The battle around them faded into the background as they stood at an impasse. In that instant, Hayes saw not an enemy, but a leader fighting for her people, just as he was fighting for his. The moment was shattered by a sudden explosion, sending debris flying and separating Hayes from his team. Dazed and disoriented, he found himself alone with the princess. Lyra, equally shaken, saw an opportunity. She could kill him and strike a blow against the invaders, but something held her back. "Why are you here?" she demanded, her voice a mixture of anger and curiosity. Hayes, struggling to regain his footing, replied, "We're here to stop a weapon that could destroy entire planets. We can't let that happen." Lyra's eyes widened in shock. "A weapon? There is no such weapon. You've been misled." The realization hit Hayes like a punch to the gut. If Lyra was telling the truth, then the Federation had been manipulated into this war. But there was no time to process this revelation. More explosions rocked the palace, and the structure began to collapse around them. "Come with me," Lyra said, extending her hand. "We need to get out of here." Hayes hesitated for a moment, then grasped her hand. Together they navigated the crumbling palace, escaping into the dense forests beyond. Princess Lyra and Captain Hayes plunged into the thick, emerald forest that surrounded the Valorian capital, the sounds of battle fading into the distance. The air was thick with tension and the scent of the lush vegetation. Their escape was a mixture of urgency and caution, each step laden with the weight of their shared distrust and the dawning realization of a deeper truth. The two moved silently, their senses heightened by the ever-present danger. Lyra, despite her initial suspicion, led the way with confidence, navigating the dense foliage with ease. Hayes followed closely, his military training ensuring he left no trace of their path. The forest, with its towering trees and vibrant flora, seemed like a world apart from the war-torn city they had fled. After hours of relentless movement, they found a small clearing near a crystal-clear stream. Exhausted, they decided to rest and regroup. The sun was beginning to set, casting a warm, golden light over the forest. Lyra knelt by the stream, splashing water on her face and taking deep, steadying breaths. Hayes stood guard, his eyes scanning the surroundings for any signs of pursuit. "Do you really believe we have a superweapon?" Lyra asked, breaking the silence. Her tone was a mix of curiosity and disbelief. Hayes sighed, lowering his weapon. "That's what we were told. Our intel suggested your people were on the verge of creating something catastrophic." Lyra shook her head, her expression a mixture of frustration and sorrow. "My people have been working on advanced technology, but it's for environmental restoration, not destruction. The idea of a superweapon is a lie, likely propagated by those who stand to benefit from this war." Hayes sat down on a fallen log, the weight of her words sinking in. "If what you're saying is true, then we've been fighting for the wrong reasons. Both of our people have been manipulated." As night fell, they made camp, the flickering flames of their fire providing a small measure of comfort. The forest around them buzzed with nocturnal life, the sounds of insects and distant animals, a reminder that there was still life beyond the conflict. They shared a simple meal, their conversation tentative but necessary. "Tell me about your home," Hayes said, trying to bridge the chasm between them. Lyra smiled wistfully. "Zaloria is a place of beauty and wonder. Our cities are built in harmony with nature, and our technology is designed to enhance, not exploit, our environment. Before the war, we were known for our advances in medicine and environmental science." Hayes nodded, appreciating her perspective. "Earth has its own beauty, though it's often overshadowed by our conflicts. We've made great strides in technology and exploration, but we've also made many mistakes." Their conversation continued late into the night, each sharing stories and experiences that revealed their common humanity. They spoke of family, dreams, and the hope for a future free from war. Slowly, the barriers between them began to crumble, replaced by a fragile but growing trust. The next morning, they set out to find a way to expose the truth. Lyra knew of an ancient Valorian outpost deep within the forest, a place where they could transmit a message to both the Valorian Empire and the United Earth Federation. It was a risky plan, but their best chance to stop the war. As they traveled, their bond grew stronger. Hayes admired Lyra's resilience and wisdom, while Lyra respected Hayes's courage and integrity. They relied on each other, their partnership evolving from necessity to genuine camaraderie. The journey to the outpost was treacherous. They navigated through dense underbrush, crossed swift rivers, and climbed rocky escarpments. Along the way, they encountered remnants of Valorian wildlife, majestic creatures that roamed the forest, oblivious to the war. The beauty of the forest served as a stark reminder of what they were fighting to protect. One evening, as they rested near a waterfall, Lyra turned to Hayes, her expression serious. "There's something I need to tell you. If we're caught, there's a chance neither of us will survive." Hayes met her gaze, his determination unwavering. "We'll make it. We have to." Lyra nodded, her resolve matching his. "For our people, and for the future." Their journey was not without its dangers. They encountered Federation patrols and Valorian scouts, narrowly avoiding capture on several occasions. Each close call reinforced their determination to succeed. They learned to move as a unit, their skills complementing each other in perfect harmony. Finally, after days of arduous travel, they arrived at the ancient outpost. It was a forgotten relic of Valorian history, hidden deep within a secluded valley. The outpost was overgrown with vines and moss, its once proud structures now crumbling and weathered by time. But it still held the technology they needed. Inside, they found an old communication terminal, covered in dust, but still functional. Lyra activated the terminal, her fingers dancing over the controls with practiced ease. Hayes stood guard, his weapon ready, as she prepared to send their message. "We only have one chance at this," Lyra said, her voice tense. "If they trace the signal, we'll be exposed." Hayes nodded, his focus unbroken. "Do it, we're ready." Lyra transmitted the evidence they had gathered, a detailed account of the deception that had fueled the war. The message was sent to both the Valorian Empire and the United Earth Federation, a desperate plea for peace and the truth. As the transmission ended, alarms blared throughout the outpost. They had been detected. Hayes and Lyra exchanged a grim look, their resolve steeled by the knowledge that they had done everything they could. "Time to move," Hayes said, leading the way out of the outpost. They fled into the forest, the sounds of pursuing forces growing louder. They moved swiftly, using every trick they had learned to evade capture. The forest, once a sanctuary, now became a battlefield once more. In a final desperate attempt to shake their pursuers, Hayes and Lyra took refuge in a hidden cave. They were exhausted, their bodies pushed to the limit, but their spirits remained unbroken. "We did it," Lyra said, her voice barely a whisper. Hayes nodded, a faint smile on his lips. "Whatever happens now, we've done our part." As they rested in the cave, the weight of their journey and the uncertainty of their future pressed down on them. Yet amidst the darkness, there was a glimmer of hope. They had taken the first step towards ending the war, and for that, they were willing to face whatever came next. In the silence of the cave, they found solace in each other's presence, their bond now unbreakable. Together, they would face the challenges ahead, united by a shared purpose and a hope for a better tomorrow. Deep within the forest, Hayes and Lyra found a moment of respite in the hidden cave. The sounds of their pursuers faded, replaced by the steady rhythm of their breathing and the distant chirping of forest creatures. The cave was cool and dark, a temporary sanctuary from the chaos outside. They knew they couldn't stay long, but for now, it was a safe haven. As they sat against the cool stone walls, Lyra broke the silence. "We need a plan. We can't keep running forever." Hayes nodded, his mind already racing. "Agreed. We need to reach out to our allies, those who still believe in peace. The message we sent will cause ripples, but we need to guide them. Lyra considered his words, then spoke with determination. There's an old Valorian legend about a place called the Sanctuary of Echoes. It's a hidden stronghold, used by our ancestors during times of great peril. If we can reach it, we might find allies and resources to continue our fight. Hayes's eyes lit up with a glimmer of hope. Do you know where it is? Lyra nodded. I studied the old maps as a child. It's a few days' journey from here, through the heart of the forest. It won't be easy, but it's our best chance. They rested for a few hours, gathering their strength. As dawn approached, they set out, moving with purpose and caution. The forest, though beautiful, was fraught with dangers, both natural and man-made. They avoided patrols and navigated treacherous terrain, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. During the journey, they spoke of their lives before the war. Lyra shared stories of her childhood in the palace, her dreams of a peaceful reign, and the burden of leadership thrust upon her. Hayes recounted tales of his military career, his love for his family, and the sacrifices he had made for duty. One evening, as they made camp near a serene lake, Hayes turned to Lyra. You've been through so much, yet you remain hopeful. How do you do it? Lyra smiled, the firelight reflecting in her eyes. Hope is all we have. Without it, we're lost. I believe in a future where our people can coexist, where our children can grow up without the shadow of war. Hayes nodded, moved by her words. You're right. We have to hold on to hope, no matter how dark it gets. The next day they encountered a small group of Valorian scouts. Tensions were high, but Lyra's presence and her words of peace persuaded them to join their cause. It was a small victory, but a significant one, bolstering their spirits and their numbers. As they drew closer to the Sanctuary of Echoes, the forest grew denser and more treacherous. They navigated through narrow ravines, crossed rickety bridges, and climbed steep cliffs. Their journey was a test of endurance and resolve, but they pressed on, driven by their shared mission. Finally, after days of grueling travel, they reached the sanctuary. It was a hidden valley, lush and vibrant, protected by natural barriers and ancient Valorian technology. The entrance was marked by towering stone pillars, inscribed with the history of Lyra's ancestors. Inside, they were greeted by a group of Valorian elders and warriors who had maintained the sanctuary's secrecy for generations. Lyra explained their mission, revealing the truth about the war and their plan to unite both species in peace. The elders listened intently, their expressions a mix of skepticism and hope. One of the elders, a wise and weathered woman named Mira, stepped forward. Your words are bold, Princess Lyra, but actions speak louder. Show us that your cause is just, and we will stand with you. Over the next few days, Lyra and Hayes worked tirelessly to prove their intentions. They shared the evidence they had gathered, trained with the warriors, and helped fortify the sanctuary. Their dedication and sincerity won over the hearts of the Valorian resistance. Hayes also reached out to his contacts within the Federation. Those he knew were sympathetic to their cause. It was a risky move, but he trusted that there were still good people willing to listen. Slowly, support began to grow, whispers of rebellion spreading among the ranks. As their forces gathered strength, they planned their next move, a coordinated strike to expose the truth and force a ceasefire. It was a daring plan, but one that could end the war and save countless lives. On the eve of their mission, Hayes and Lyra stood together on a hill overlooking the sanctuary. The moonlight bathed the valley in a silvery glow, a peaceful contrast to the turmoil they faced. We've come so far, Lyra said, her voice filled with emotion. No matter what happens, I'm grateful to have met you, Daniel. Hayes took her hand, his gaze steady. I feel the same, Lyra. Together we can make a difference, for our people and for the future. The next day, they launched their operation. Valorian and human forces, united by a common goal, struck key locations across the planet. Their actions disrupted the war machine, and their message of peace reached the hearts and minds of many. In a final climactic confrontation, Hayes and Lyra faced their greatest challenge, a fortified Federation outpost where the lies had been perpetuated. They fought bravely, their resolve unshakable. With the help of their allies, they breached the outpost's defenses and broadcast the truth to the galaxy. The revelation sent shockwaves through both societies, igniting a movement for peace that could not be silenced. Leaders from both sides were forced to confront the reality of the war and the deception that had fueled it. In the aftermath, a ceasefire was declared. Peace talks began, with Hayes and Lyra at the forefront, advocating for a future where both species could coexist. Their journey had been long and arduous, but their bond had grown unbreakable, forged in the fires of adversity. As they stood together on a hill overlooking a field of wildflowers, the war finally over, Lyra's eyes glistened with tears. She looked at Hayes, her voice filled with gratitude and hope. "You saved me," she whispered, "in more ways than one." Hayes smiled, his own eyes misty. "And you saved me. We saved each other." As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the landscape, they knew their journey was far from over. But for the first time, they faced the future with hope, united by a bond that transcended the stars.